Good morning. It is great to be here with you for the top 100 most powerful Black women summit. Allow me to share my screen. My name is Molly Creese. I am the CEO of We Network Services and the founder of We Women Elevate, a nonprofit organization geared towards the upliftment and elevation of women. Today, we're going to be talking about executive influence, strategic networking, and power moves for Black women leaders. Welcome to my masterclass. Today, I want to challenge how we've been taught to think about networking. For too long, Black women have been told that success comes from doing more, meeting more people, saying more, proving more. But executive influence is not about how many hands you shake. It's about how you are experienced when you enter the room. Networking isn't transactional. Executive influence is strategic. What you learned today, we'll talk about what executive influence really means. We'll talk about the executive walk-in, the strategic networking power moves that you can adapt, leading in who you are, that's shifting your mindset, standing in your whole self, and turning your identity into influence. Now, let's talk about what executive influence really means. We talk a lot about perception, but at the executive level, perception is too passive. Executives don't wait to be perceived, they don't wait to be interpreted, and they don't wait to be understood. Executive influence is the ability to shape your narrative so clearly and consistently that when you step into a room, people don't guess who you are, they already know, or they're curious about who you are. And if you have curiosity, that breeds power. Executive influence removes ambiguity. It replaces perception with clarity and expectation. You are no longer being assessed, you are being placed. And so if you look on the slide here, where I have the Elevate Influence model, where it talks about the E stands for executive presence, the L stands for language mastery, the E, emotional intelligence, visibility strategy, authority positioning, thought leadership, and empowered decisions. When you embody all of these things, executive influence is not one skill, it's a system. If one of these is missing, your influence is inconsistent. So you have to have that presence, you have to have that language, being able to speak and communicate well, that emotional intelligence to know how to observe and assess the situations that you're in, and have that visibility strategy for yourself. Authority positioning, your thought leadership, your expertise, how you're expressing yourself and putting your work out there. And also, how do you make decisions? And are you empowered to make those decisions? Let's do a 30-second exercise. Pause briefly, ask yourself, if I walk into a room of decision makers today, what would they quickly understand about me? What am I known for clearly, simply, and confidently? If your answer is unclear, that's your gap. Executives are not confusing. So when you're putting your message out there, when you're putting your narrative out there, it must be clear, it must be simple, it must be confident. I would also say it must be concise because people should be able to absorb it quickly. We're living in a time where it's a microwave society, everything goes really quick. 30 seconds, and the next 30 seconds, they're on to something new. What is going to leave that lasting impression? So I really want you to ask yourself these two questions and think about them really carefully. The clarity test. From those questions, I want you to take this clarity test. Can people describe you in one sentence? You say, oh, Molly, one sentence? Yes, one sentence. Like I said, people want to observe you quickly. So, what is one sentence? If you can't figure out how, try to write it down. Write down, describe you yourself in one sentence. Does it connect to business value? This second point is not just for business owners. It speaks about you, your embodiment, and you should see and look at yourself as a business. So, does it connect to the value that you're trying to portray or that you have already? Is it consistent across rooms? Not just the rooms you enter in, but the rooms we speak of. When we speak of rooms, we talk about every facet of where your brand structure is located. So it can be in person, in a meeting, in the boardroom, at events, at a conference. In rooms can also mean online, whether it be on your LinkedIn, on your Instagram, TikTok, or whatever online website, what you're using. Is your message consistent across those rooms? Now, let's talk about the executive walk in, because this is where influence begins before you even enter the room. Phase one, before the room, strategic preparation and positioning yourself. So, when you're preparing to enter the room, before you attend that meeting or that summit or that conference or event, ask yourself, why does this room exist? Why does this conference exist? What's the goal of the conference? What's the purpose? What are the objectives? What decisions are made here? What is going to happen? What is the decision in the meeting? Is it for a presentation? Is it for the company to elevate in some sort of way? You have to ask yourself those questions. Who benefits from influence in this space? Know the context, and if you know the attendees in advance, you're able to do that research as well, knowing the attendees. Identify power centers, understand relationships, and look beyond titles, because titles tell you who's invited, but behavior tells you who's powerful. Because sometimes the most powerful people are the people that are not the loudest, or not the ones that is saying, this is my title or that is my title. So don't be enamored with title, but look at who's powerful. Look at who's moving in the room strategically. Phase two, in the room, strategic observation and perception. If you don't know the room or the players, that's okay. Executives know how to read it quickly. You know how to step in the room, you know how to observe, and you know how to read the temperature. Watch for who people defer to, who speaks last, who others gravitate towards between the sessions, depending on the event that you're at, and who doesn't need to introduce themselves. Someone who has that executive presence, who walks in a room with confidence, who knows that they are somebody, they don't need to introduce themselves. And those are the people you need to observe and you need to look out for. Once you identify the players, you align your strategy. You don't approach everyone the same way. This is not your regular networking where you just go to an event and you go to the bar and you sit down and you grab a drink and you start talking, or you go into this group here and you start talking to every and anybody. No, when you are at that executive level, when you're exuding that executive presence, you already have a strategy about yourself. So you know who you're going to talk to. And when you observe, you know which groups you're going to attack and where you're going to position yourself. So you don't have to speak to everyone. You don't approach everyone the same way. Some require insight, not introductions. Some require alignment, not ambition. and some are observers. Earn trust before engagement. Influence is adaptive. Let's move on to phase 3, after the room. After you've done all the strategy and you've placed yourself in the room, you let your strategic plan work, you connect with who you want to connect with, then you move on to phase 3, which is after the room, your follow-up strategy. That's your power move. And we'll dive into it more when we get into the power move slide. But I wanted to mention it here. Remembering to follow up, and follow up in such a way where it's not a regular follow up where you send an email and that's about it. Executives are intentional. So you might ask for a lunch meetup or a dinner meetup, or you might invite them out to another event that your company's having or that you're having, and you have to be creative about it because the importance and the building the connection is in the follow-up and in maintaining. Let's do a 30-second exercise. Power mapping. Imagine the last room you've entered. Who spoke the least but carried the most weight? Who did people reference even when they weren't speaking? That's where influence lives. So think about that. Think about a time when you were in the room, and think about who they might not have been the person that was on the panel or doing the discussions or whatever, but you've observed and you see the way how they moved in the room. Who people reference even when they weren't speaking, right? There might be someone there that they're not on the panel, they're not the person that is putting on the event, but they have that influence that people know who they are and people talk about them. So think about that. And while you think about that, think about how you can position yourself in that way. The power signals influence map. And when I talk about how you can position yourself in that way, think about how you're referenced. And it's not just about your reference personally. Like I talked about your online reputation as well. How are you referenced online? When you post on LinkedIn, are people reposting what you post, right? Are people talking about your post, commenting, all of that stuff? When you put something out there in the ether, is it being referenced? Is it being talked about? Influence in the room, response. Sometimes you have to minimal talk. Like I said, minimal talk equals maximum weight. And if we look down here to the formula, the influence formula, influence equal perception plus positioning plus patterns. So your perception, your positioning, and your pattern is very important to how you're going to influence people and how people is going to be talking about you. I also want to talk about, it's very important to make this distinction. Traditional networking focuses on introductions, while executive influence focuses on intentional proximity. Like I said, intentionality, intentional, strategic. And I want to engage you with some power moves. They're not on the slide, so please listen to me carefully and write them down. Power move number 1. Enter with a goal. You must always have a goal. Executives don't meet everyone, they identify 2 to 3 strategic connections. So before you enter into any room, what is the goal of you being there? Ask yourself these questions. Who aligns with where I'm going? Who influences decisions I care about? And who expands my access, not just my contacts? Power move number 2. Be known for one thing. Yes, we are multifaceted. We can do a lot of things. But when I coach and I tell my people is to all of those things, they have to make sense. And how do you marry them together so that they come under one umbrella that is your brand, that you can identify clearly and speak about? So be known for one thing. Executives are clear. If people can't place you, they can't position you. You don't need a full biography. You need a clear lane. And when people are able to describe you clearly, that's where the opportunities come into play. In power move number 3, curiosity over performance. Stop performing for rooms. Ask sharp questions. Reflect insight back. Let people lean in to what you're saying and to what you're talking about. And when people are curious about you, you are already in a position of power. So let's go over those moves again. Power move number 1, enter with a goal. Power move number 2, be known for one thing. And power move number 3, curiosity over performance. And that dives right into clarify intention, open conversations, nurture relationships, navigate opportunities, expand visibility, convert to influence, and track relationships. I want to stick on this last one, track relationships, because this one is very, very important. We are so busy in life and we're doing all the things. We are awesome Black women. We are doing it and we are um, doing the darn thing. But in all of this, when we connect and when we build on those relationships, let's not forget to track those relationships because tracking equates to maintenance, and maintenance is very important. One of the ways I track my relationships is I have a networking tracker. It's a spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets. You might not like the spreadsheet. You might want to have some kind of AI to track it. I know there's an AI out there that can do it. You might want to have it on your phone readily available. I like my spreadsheet because I get to put notes in there. Like when I meet someone, I get to put the conversation, I get to put down where they're from, what we talked about, all of that stuff. It helps me in the follow up when I'm following up to be intentional about that follow up so I can mention our conversation because people are so busy, they forget things and they are connecting with so many different people. So, as an executive, you have to be more strategic in the way you track relationships and in the way you follow up. Networking is not random, it's strategic alignment. So, all of this plays into your strategy and how you do it. And if you do it carefully, you will reap those benefits. Now, let's dive into leading in who you are. And this is where your mindset shifts to that executive presence mode and you step into that place of high level, of high achieving, and you lead with your whole self in knowing who you are. Their authentic power framework, identity, who I am, value, what I bring, what you bring to the table, what you bring to the conversation, what you bring to the boardroom, what you bring in your business. That's all of that is your value proposition. Voice, how you communicate. How do I want to communicate? Invisibility, where I show up. Where do you want to show up? Because executives don't show up every and anywhere. We are very strategic in where we show up and where we make our mark and where we put our energy. So, leading in who you are means knowing your power and using your unique identifier, not as a weakness, but as a strength. Let's stop there for a while on your unique identifier. Think about this for a second. What is your unique identifier? I would say my unique identifier is being able to connect people. I'm a master connector. And I people know me for that because they will connect with me and ask for help and want me to do certain connections for them. I have a colleague, his unique identifier is being the person that is joyful, playing his saxophone. He is a motivational speaker, and he's known for playing his saxophone. When he gets in front of a crowd, they know that they're going to get something great, something exciting to loosen them up for what is to come. Think about what your unique identifier is and use that. Some of you might think your unique identifier is a weakness. It's not a weakness. Your unique identifier is a strength. It's where what people point you out. It can be something physical, as you being one colleague of mine wearing her hair blue braids, and people know her as the blue braid coach. Or it can be something that's a skill that you absolutely people know you for and that you do. So what is that unique identifier? Your difference is not a liability, it's leverage. 3 ways to do this. Write this down. Name your power before the room tries to name you. A lot of times we leave ourselves up to interpretation. If you do that, then people interpret you the way they interpret you, and it might not be the right way, and you might not want that to happen. So name your power before the room tries to name you. Frame yourself with clarity. Executives define themselves before assumptions form. When you name your power, you remove room for misinterpretation. Number 2, stop explaining, start embodying. Over-explaining signals uncertainty. Executives let tone, pace, and presence do the work for them. And so you got to make sure your tone is right. You got to make sure your pace is right. And make sure you're showing up with that presence. Number 3, make your difference desirable. Differences become power when it solves a problem the room has. Connect your perspectives to outcomes and position your lens as value. When you do that, people don't have to misinterpret what you're saying, what you're bringing, what message you're trying to convey to them. And in sticking with leading who you are, I would not be me if I don't bring you another exercise here. I want you to self-reflect. Self-awareness is really important in being able to jot down your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats is very important to your self-discovery and to you standing in that executive presence. So start with your strengths. Start putting them down. I would have you know the SWOT analysis is not just for business. It's for you gaining clarity within yourself. Put those weaknesses down and think about how you can turn those weaknesses into strengths, or how you can use that weakness as a unique identifier. Think about the threats and how you can turn those into opportunities, and think about the opportunities in a way of how you can engage, how you can put those, when you put your message out there, when you put your brand out there, when you're consistent across all platforms, what are those opportunities that is going to come your way? And what are those opportunities that you're looking for? And when you're able to clearly put that down, you'll be able to clearly develop that strategic plan and that strategic message for you to achieve those opportunities. Let's dive into another case study. We've all been talking about this, so we're bringing it home. Case study, executive influence in action. A senior executive enters a national industry conference. She doesn't rush into introductions. She does phase 1 before arriving in the room. She does her research the agenda. She identified decision makers. She clarified her objective, visibility for a strategic initiative. In the room, she observed first, asked thoughtful questions during panels, positioned her insight without oversharing. By the end of the conference, people approached her. She was invited into follow-up conversations. her initiative gained traction without a pitch. Was this perfectly executed? Think about it. Think about all we've talked about before. Is this the right way to step into the room? If not, jot down what you think could have been done better. If it's the perfect way, try to adopt this when you enter into rooms. Make this your own. I would say she did it without a pitch, but I would say always have your pitch ready. We call it the elevator pitch. I call it the networking pitch. We consider executive pitch here today because we're talking about executive presence. And when it's all said and done, we get to the executive shift. So when you've done all of those things, earn clarity, the strategy, the positioning, the elevation of your brand and all of that stuff, and you put it out there into the ether, the shift is you go from visible to valuable. You go from busy to strategic. You go from talking to positioning, and you go from networking to influence. And this is where we want to get to. We want to get to influence, and we want to shift from those things into being that executive influence, that executive presence. So from visible to valuable, from busy to strategic, from talking to positioning, and from networking to influence. Thank you so much. Scan the QR code for the workbook to this masterclass. For a PDF copy, feel free to email me at wenetworkservices@gmail.com. And for a free 30-minute consultation, if you want to elevate, step into that executive level and that executive presence, and you need someone to be your accountability partner, you need someone to walk you through that step by step and to get you to that next level, don't hesitate, scan that QR code for the 30-minute free consultation. Also, if you want to be a part of my Executive Accelerated cohort, Fall 2026, sign up to be on my mailing list for more information on that. Just scan the QR code below there and you would get all of that information. I want to thank you today for listening. You all are powerful women in the room, powerful Black women, and to be able to exude that executive presence, to stand in your power, stand in who you are, and let people see that ability in you to be in that executive level and to stand in any room you enter into and be a person of power and be a person that people gravitate to. That is where I see you and that is where I want you to be. And so I want to say thank you very much. Again, my name is Molly Creese, CEO and founder of We Network Services. Feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to email me. And I hope you enjoy this masterclass thoroughly. Thank you.